This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 145 for June 30th, 2019. I'm Crash.
And I'm Daddy No Fun.
All right. So, Steve, I believe we have a special guest you'd like to introduce.
We have a special guest. We have a friend of mine, Alvin Lawrence from Black Giraffe Customs, and he's got some. We're actually he's broadcasting from his garage with some pretty badass builds. But Alvin, tell us what you do and like how you got started.
Yeah, so I own Black Giraffe Customs, and my bread and butter is welding. So I do a lot of industrial welding, railings, I-beams, open floor plans and stuff. And as a hobby, I build bikes. So I think 2008 or 9, a buddy gave me a basket case, 1975 CB400. And first thing I did was like bring it home, flush out the old fuel, and the damn thing started. It was sitting out in the weather for like 3 years in New Jersey, and I traded him an engine hoist for it. I actually gave him an engine hoist. He wanted to give me the bike, so I got the bike, and I took it home, and I got the damn thing running, and it freaking 400 sounded so awesome. I didn't even know what it was. I knew nothing about these bikes, and I started messing around with it. I got it running, registered it, and took it to work. I got some flat tires. On the way back home in summer, I pushed the thing like 1.5 miles home, and with a smile on my face because it sounded awesome. And I get it home, so I started doing a little research on tires, and I'm like, all right, what tires should I get? And everybody's like, get some Avon Road Riders. So I put some Avons on it, but as soon as I like dismounted the wheels off the bike, I'm like, well, these wheels, the spokes were all rusty and everything. So I'm like, well, I'll just take them apart and clean them. So next thing I know, I'm like sending the rims out to get painted, and I'm polishing the spokes. I didn't really know they had stainless steel spokes at the time, so I'm polishing mild steel 40-year-old spokes. And then I started like, well, the hub looks like shit, so I don't want to put that back together. So I put new wheel bearings in there and polished all the aluminum. And then all of a sudden, a year later, the bike was fully restored. And that's how it kind of got started.
Was that like your first introduction to motorcycles? Had you been a rider prior to that?
So when I was 18, I had a KZ. I remember it was a KZ 4-cylinder. Might have been a 500 or 600, like an 85 or something. And I rode that for a while. I never registered. I got pulled over, and cops took it away from me. And I'm like, whatever. And that was the last time I ever rode. I actually I broke my wrist on that bike crashing. I got cut off, and that was my first crash. And then that was my last bike until that 400. So like almost 20 years I didn't ride. Had no interest in bikes, didn't care about them or anything. I see them all the time, and then I got this one bike, and it was like a big floodgate of just every cafe racer thing I wanted to watch, magazine, the whole culture. I kind of just fell in love with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of like dove head first into it, right?
Well, so it was like a new hobby for me because I lived in New York, and I always lived in apartments, and I was always like contained in really small spaces. And so since I was like 8, my hobby was to build models. So I'd go crazy and build these like crazy dioramas. It took me like 3 years, and like military stuff. And I would go into shows, I'd win awards, and that was kind of my thing. And I just loved building stuff, but I just couldn't build bigger things because I didn't have the room. But I was a mechanic my whole life. I was BMW, Master Tech. I worked for Honda for a long time, on the cars, not the bikes. And, so I had all the mechanical skills and fabrication skills, but I just never had a chance to use it on my own personal stuff. So once I got this bike, I was renting a garage from my landlady, and it was like she had all this shit in there, and it was like lawnmower in there, and like over like a year, I just kept putting her shit outside and like throwing her stuff out.
Mhm.
It was just like junk with just like, it was like old, it was mildewy, and I'm just like, she doesn't need this. And a little bit, I got more and more courage to be like, she's not gonna miss this. She was like 85 years old, and so like a year later, it's like I got a lift in there, in this tiny garage. It's freezing in the midwinter. I would shovel like a path to go work on this thing, and it's funny because like that motivation to work on those bikes in that weather, like I didn't care. I had this little propane tank that would just heat the garage. It was so dangerous, and I would just put it on there for like 15 minutes, and then just go in there and work, and drink coffee, and just work on this little 400, man. And spring came around, and I got it started for the first time, and it was just awesome. But I tore that whole bike apart. I mean, crank bearings, rings. I mean, I was on, I think it was Western Ohio has that big Honda dealer. I was on the phone with him all the time. That's when I started, like, I met like Jason Paul Michael at the motorcycle show in Jacob Javits Center in New York City. And he was like, that was just like my beginning of the culture. I had like a Dime City shirt on, and I was just like, oh my God, it's Jason Paul Michael. You know what I mean? And I'm like, holy shit, I love you. And it's like, and he's like, yeah, I've been watching your build, and I've been sending him photos and shit. So they like posted it on Dime City Cycles. I was like so excited. And I wasn't on any kind of social media back then, like no Facebook. I didn't even care about that stuff. And so yeah, that just like inspired. And then people started liking the stuff I was doing. And it just kind of like, it kind of lifted me up, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. And I started bringing it to shows and stuff, and people were like, holy shit, this is cool. I painted it Cayman R green. So it was like that crazy green. And then I got like Honda written on the side, like the same font as the old Porsches on the side said Porsche. And it was a carbon fiber decal that I had my buddy cut for me. And it had an Acewell gauge on it. So I simplified all the electronics, and everything was polished and stainless steel hardware and the powder coated frame. And yeah, that was the beginning, man. That was the beginning.
So the question has to be asked, where the hell did you come up with Black Giraffe?
All right, so I used to be a big churchgoer. So I was really big in the church, youth leader and all that stuff. And
yeah, giraffes are super popular in the Bible, so I totally
they totally are. Yeah. So they really are. You never hear about them. That's kind of, it was weird because I was like, I kept having dreams of giraffes, and then I would like go to my buddy's house, and there'd be like a statue of a giraffe, and I'd be like, what the hell? And I just started noticing them everywhere. And I was talking to my buddy, New York City firefighter, and I'm like, hey, what's going on with, different trips going around the world? We were just talking. He's like, oh, you should go to Africa with us. It's going to be like 5 of us. It was like a Jersey cop, a New York City firefighter, and a bunch of other friends. And so I'm like, well, I've never been out of the country. I've never had a passport or anything. So I'm like, oh, shit, I got to get all these like vaccines. And then, so I went through the whole thing, and like it was like May 2013. I'm on a flight to Africa, and so we go to Africa, and we're doing all this stuff with like these kids and like Bible school, and we're having fun. I'm like making stuff for the kids and building stuff. I'm working. I almost got ran over by a freaking dump truck because I was like helping the guy disengage the clutch, and it was like a bed that came up, and I was underneath, and the dude tried to start the truck and almost rolled me over, like ripped the back of my pants off. So I was like, that was pretty close. But so the last day of the trip, we went to the safari on the Nile River. It's called Para Safari, and you go in there with your regular vehicle, and you could just see the animals and stuff. And somebody was like, "Oh my God, look! There's a giraffe over there, a black giraffe." And I'm like, "Holy shit, there is!" And so giraffes, when they get really old, their spots turn black. And I was like, "Wow, that's awesome!" So we took a bunch of photos, came back. A bunch of bad shit happened in my life when I came back from that trip. Like my whole life just went down the tubes. And I spiraled out of control a little bit, and I was still loving the bike, and I started working on a Honda Magna 99, and so I was sitting there trying to come up with a name, and it was just like the Black Giraffe. It started out as the Black Giraffe. I was like, that's pretty awesome. And
while
the girl
you were
I was
talking
dating helped me come up with it.
Oh, cool. So while you were talking about black giraffes, I realized I have a black giraffe
See,
statue.
that's what I'm talking about.
That is so random that you actually like pulled out of your bag a black giraffe.
It's it goes.
We're
This is in my living room.
Hold that up because that's going to be the thumbnail for the episode on YouTube.
Oh my god.
Hold on a second. Let me get this up here. Hold on. There we go. There's Crash and his black giraffe. That is going to be the thumbnail.
Totally meant to be.
Seriously.
Did you get that from TJ Maxx?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, usually they got this.
Yeah,
Like all the animals.
I had to go Google black giraffe. That's pretty crazy. So no, that's a cool name. Now I didn't know
that was a real thing.
Yeah, neither did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got, I know you've got some really cool builds you're working on right now. Now, you do have, you and I have been talking about your history. Originally, you were a car mechanic, right?
Yep, car mechanic.
Yeah.
We call them in the German world, we call them technicians. They don't like to be called mechanics. But I always liked mechanic better. Technicians just seem too fancy and too clean.
Did you have to wear a white lab coat when you worked for the German car companies?
Yeah, we pretty close. It was like a super light blue top button-down shirt. Always had to be tucked in. We had like pavers in the garage and like stainless steel countertops and our own computers. Yeah, it was like an office. And then you're working on a $100,000 Mercedes, or BMW.
I had a friend that worked. He was in the fire department and he worked doing rescue diving for offshore powerboat racing and for the big powerboats, right?
Yeah.
And he tells me that he got picked up by the team that was sponsored by Tommy Bahama. So he says that this big giant box shows up at his house, right, before the race with all these Tommy Bahama clothes in there. And I don't know if you've ever bought any of their stuff, but it's super expensive. Like a t-shirt's $80, Wow. A pair of pants are $125. So there's a note in there that says, please bring to the race. And he comes and grabs me. I was working for a company that supplied like dive gear to these guys. And he's like, hey, man, we got this big spread, with food, come for lunch. Well, I get to where the boat is and they're working on it. And he's dressed up in this stuff. And so are all the mechanics. They're wearing like really nice Tommy Bahama clothes and like wiping grease on their pants and everything. He goes, yeah, they want us wearing the stuff when we're working on the boat and doing everything. And we're like, well, it's going to get dirty. They're like, no problem. We'll just give you more. So they had like a truck there full of clothes of this expensive Tommy Bahama stuff. And as these guys are, like destroying these shirts and pants, they're like, here's a clean one. Put this on. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They wanted, I guess from a distance, they wanted to look so like uniform,
Well, that and they're like, trying to get people to buy their stuff and figuring.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. But so you also told me that you did an interesting project for someone. You got some kids involved in building and customizing bikes. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was working down here in Charleston for a Mercedes dealer, and at the same time I was renting out a warehouse space with a few buddies of mine, and they were working on cars, building crazy turbo stuff, and we all just kind of chipped in and got like 2,500 square foot shop. And I took about 1,000 square feet of it, or maybe 800, and I just put all my stuff in the corner. We built some walls around my stuff. And one of the guys that were there, I didn't really know him too well, but he was an inventor, and his kids went to this project-based school here in Charleston. And he was like, we were talking one day, he's like, wow, you do really crazy stuff, And he's like, there's this school my kids go to. They're looking to bring, they called it craftsmanship class. They want to bring like a little shop class back to this place. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they were like, you need to talk to the, this headmaster wants to talk to you and stuff. So it took about like 6 months, but we winded up like meeting up and everything. And he kind of like told me what he wanted to do. There's a school in LA called High Tech High, and he kind of showed me this video about what they're doing. And like, it's all like kids, it's not a normal classroom environment. And so kids have to like create stuff and make stuff and figure and do a lot of problem solving. And they give they had a really high end school there, and they had like 3D printers and plasma tables and all this stuff. So he goes in there, and I'm like, okay, this is what you're going to pay. We're going to start you on part-time. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I didn't want to say no to it because it was like a new opportunity. I'm like, oh, let's try it. Whatever. I got a few bucks in the bank. I can spend some time doing this and see if it'll work. So he hired me part-time. He gave me 5 high school students, seniors, four boys. And so I go in there. I'm like, so what kind of budget do I have? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I got to buy like shop equipment, and I got to buy tables and, vices and stuff. He's like, oh, we don't really have that, but you're going to share the art room with 2 other art teachers. So I start the first day, and I'm walking into I mean, you guys remember what an art room looks like? They're kind of messy. You know what I mean? It's like freaking paper everywhere and pastels, and I'm like, what is this? And so I'm like, this is a joke. So I sat with the five guys, and I'm like, listen, guys. And I never taught, so I treat these guys just like I would treat any other guy. I'm like, look, we don't have any money. You know what I mean? And we don't have anything to work on. But I got a welder, and I got some grinders, and I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to find some steel. And I'm going to teach you guys how to just do some welding and stuff. So we started off with a bunch of safety stuff, and I got a bunch of safety glasses for them and gloves, and kind of gave them the rundown on that. And then we're like literally like in the back of my C10 with a welder in the back with an extension coming from the gymnasium into the back of my truck, and I'm showing these kids how to weld. And then so they're loving it, man. They're like loving the fire and the grinding and all that. So we're just making a bunch of stuff, and then like the school wanted us to make a new podium because they had this really crappy podium. So I got a friend of mine here that he does like reclaimed lumber projects, like big, huge projects with like reclaimed lumber. So he hooked me up with like a bunch of wood, and so I think we made a podium with some angle iron and some expanded steel and some wood, and they sanded it and stained it, and it came out pretty good. And then I was at a Rockabilly Q show we have up here in Charleston, and there's like a motorcycle show. And I had my Honda Sabre and my Ducati 748 in the back of my 70 C10. And I was just hanging out. And this old guy comes up, and he's from South Africa. And he's like, hey, what do you got here? And, he's like, I don't know if that was the right South African accent, but who cares? And he's like, and he's like, what do you do? Like, I'm like, well, these are just my bikes, it's a hobby and stuff. And he's like, well, what do you do for a living? I'm like, and I had just started teaching like a few months in, and I'm like, well, I'm a school teacher. I teach industrial arts, which I changed it from craftsmanship teacher because I didn't like it. And with the students, we came up with industrial arts. So I made that title, and I stuck with it. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm an industrial arts teacher. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. He's like, hey, I might have some tools for you. So I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's going to probably give us like, some wrenches and some ratchets. That'd be cool. But he comes to my house, and I go to this guy's house, and he's got like 15 exotic cars in his garage. He's got a CR 750 replica. He's got like RD 350s, RD 400s. He's got Triumphs and Mini Coopers. And I'm like, holy shit! I'm just like drooling. And he's like, here, come here. We're just selling this house and buying another house. We're bringing everything to this other house. And he brings me to like this shed. He goes, everything in here is yours. You can have it. He had friggin' like Snap-on roll carts, full tool sets, air compressors. Yeah, he had air compressors and nuts and bolts, and gave us so much stuff. So I'm like, holy shit, where are we going to put this stuff? So I sat there with the students, found the smartest kid in the class, the best writer, and I'm like, listen, we need to write a proposal. We need a place to put this stuff because it's not going in the art room. And so I got these kids, and we all just sat there, and we spent like weeks writing these proposals. And, we came up with a good one, gave it to the headmaster. We were like, hey, we need some money for just shipping containers or like a steel building or something. So one of the parents winded up donating like $5,000 worth of shipping containers. And for months, me and the kids went out there. We had rock and gravel donated. We went out there, and like I showed them the 3-4-5 rule to like get everything square on this big, I think it was like 40 by 40 spot we were going to put these 2 shipping containers on. And we get out there, we do everything, and like the last day, the truck is coming to drop off the containers. And the way we had everything routed, they were going to sit on railroad ties. The guy's like, I need 196 feet to unload these. And we're like, oh shit, nobody ever told us that. So like in just a few hours, me and the maintenance guy at the school had to like move all of these railroad ties and like reconfigure everything. And then the guy ripped up the whole entire lawn, dropping these things off. It was a freaking mess. And when they sat down, they were like all whacked out. They were like leaning over and everything because we had everything perfect and leveled. But so that's what we started with. So, we had some parents come out and like use fucking 4x4 jacks to like jack these things up and level them as best as possible. But like that was our first shop. And, we put all the tools in there, and we ran an extension cord out from the gymnasium to these things every day. Like every day I gave a kid, I'm like, all right, your turn to roll up this freaking 50-foot extension cord. And they're like, come on, Mr. Lawrence. I'm like, come on, you got to do it. And then tomorrow somebody else will do it. So, and that's how it kind of started. the next year, so they gave me, after that first quarter, they gave me some more students, some middle school students. This school was a K to 12 school, and it had about 350 students in the whole school, small school. And so I started having like other age groups come out and teaching them stuff. And then, so the next year, they hired me full time, and I had like 5 classes. And that's when I really started getting serious with like what we're going to do. And I had gone to one of my buddy's shops, and he was talking to me about something. He's like, "Oh, everything's lean in here." I'm like, "What the hell's lean? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, look up Paul Akers lean, 2-second lean." I'm like, "All right, right." So I YouTube Paul Akers, and Paul Akers always making like, it's like the Japanese method of like organizing.
Oh yeah, like Six Sigma and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 5S. Yeah, totally. And so I started implementing that in our class. I'm like, it was a really good chance to like let kids lead the role in the morning and have a morning meeting and figure out what we're gonna do. Because I really had I was like faking it till I made it. You know what I mean? I had no material. We had to just use what we had. So, yeah. So that's pretty much.
How far into that did you guys actually get a bike?
So, that first year I worked full time. I'm like, well, all summer I had a chance to like figure out what to do. So, I had my CB400, the one I had fully restored. I had a Honda Sabre, CB 1100, 83 CB 1100, a KZ1000 I bought on Facebook, an 83 KZ1000 LTD, and I bought those 4 bikes in there. The story with the 400, which I didn't mention, that really bad year, that summer on my fully restored bike, I came from a bike show. And I'm like, I'm going to take the long scenic route home. And someone T-boned me on the bike. And dude just ran a stop sign and just rammed my femur bone into my pelvic bone and gave me like 15 pins. I worked for a really high-end BMW shop at the time. And I couldn't go back to work for a year. And when I did, I was like still in pain. So that whole thing it changed my life. But that bike, it never started from that night. And I had one student, she was about 15 at the time, and she didn't get along with anyone. She didn't really like any of the other students. She would just tell me, she's like, "Mr. Lawrence, I don't want to work with them. I don't like them. I don't like people." I'm like, "All right, what do you want to do?" She's like, "I want to work on my own motorcycle." So I'm like, "All right." So I kind of talked to her about 2013 and the CB400. And she's like, "I want to work on that bike." So bring the bike in, and she's like, "I want to name it Jesus. It's kind of like be resurrected." So yeah, this girl all by herself, she like pulled the motor out. I found a frame that I got donated. I had to go down to a Barba Vintage Festival to pick it up, and someone like gave it to me. It was all cut up and stuff, but it was straight. So yeah, she put the bike, and when I left last year, we had the bike running. So she swapped the whole motor out, swing arm, the bronze bushings, everything, all the wheels. She did it all herself. I stood by and kind of guided her, but yeah, she did it all on her own.
That's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah. Another student, they have like the senior exhibitions they have to do, and one student wanted to work on one bike by himself too. So I found this like $250 KZ1000, and it was a basket case, but it was straight. So I brought it in, and like, we got so many donations. I'm like, listen, I taught these kids how to network and reach out to all these different companies. I mean, Devin from Cognito Moto was sending us like triples and steering head, bearings and steering stems. And we had a powder coat the thing for free. And like, so it's got like, it's a KZ1000 with full powder coated frame, full Gixxer front end with laced wheels.
Do you think that any of this got these kids interested in motorcycling in general? Like, did you keep in contact with any of the ones after they graduated? Did they like buy bikes or, start working on their own projects? I mean, it sounds like you gave them a pretty good skill set when they left.
Yeah. So, the one kid I taught to weld, he was a scuba diver. He had a scuba certification. He went down to Jacksonville, and because he loved welding so much, he got a scuba certification. And right out of high school, he graduated that program. He was making $70,000 here in Charleston. So, and he wasn't going to college.
Oh, you mean like a commercial diver?
Yep.
Yeah.
He went to there. It was like a 7-month program or something in Jacksonville. And he comes back to the school to visit. And he's like, because this school like really pushed like college acceptance, and like he was the only one that didn't go. But I'm like, dude, you're not going to be in debt. You're going to have like 70 grand a year, and you still live with your parents.
Right.
How awesome is that? Another student went to Clemson. He went into a design program. He wants to be like a designer and stuff. And I actually still work with him. He was here last night helping me put more lights up in here. And he's really good artist, really talented. And he wants to get into that. And all these kids that I still talk to, a few of them, they all want bikes, and they're still like living with their parents, and they get that whole "you're not getting a bike" kind of thing. They're not old enough yet. But yeah, so yeah, a few of them I stayed in touch with. I didn't have that many students that were. Some kids got into dirt bikes and started rebuilding dirt bikes, and they were like spring pictures in. So yeah, it did inspire some stuff, and I wish I could have stayed longer and really taken them to like hand built show and to Barber and really show them that world, But it just kind of it ran out of steam for me. I couldn't stay at the school.
Right.
Well,
I mean, you still, like I said, you still gave him a pretty good skill set. That.
Yeah.
That's great. So what are you working on presently?
So right behind us, that's an '83 CB 1100 on the lift, the red and white one.
Yeah,
that was sitting in a garage. That was like one of those era correct builds, like '90s builds with Fox shocks, and it had a Calfab swing arm. It's got the I guess those are the Canadian version wheels on there, the aluminum anodized aluminum wheels. It's got these massive, crazy rotors up front. I don't even know what the hell they're from, with brackets, and it's got this crazy rear rotor on it too. That was one of the projects that I brought to school, and another female student worked on it. And we put a Dyna 2000 ignition in it. We put some Rick's starter in it, Rick's electronic starter solenoid, new battery, and we got it running. But it still needs a lot of work. I'm gonna piss a lot of purists off, but the bike's gonna get cut up.
Yeah, that's pissing me off just listening to you talk about it, because that '83, that's iconic, man. That was the first motorcycle I bought. Was a CB 1100F.
And I think the reason I'm doing it is because the bike is not original anyway. It's got a Weisco 1123 kit in it. It's got a giant Earl's oil cooler. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard to like bring it back to stock. It just, there's a bug in me. I just can't like leave shit alone. I just can't leave stuff stock. And like, I kind of look up to like Brian Fuller and those guys, because those guys don't give a shit about like cutting up something that shouldn't be cut up. And I can restore bikes all day, and it's kind of like, it's like the easy route, just grab a bike, restore it, and sell it. They sell so much better when they're just like all original, and I know that, but I just don't feel like being that guy, and just maybe I'll do it later down the road, just doing full nice restoration.
Well, I mean, that's okay if somebody, you may have a customer that comes to you and say, I want you to restore this, and that's what you're going to do. But if your thing is making something out of something different, then there's nothing wrong with that. Just because somebody like me gets pissed off at it, so what? It's not my bike, it's yours. I don't have to buy it when you're done with it, And
I feel like if there wasn't a lot of them out there, you see those all the time. You can get them all day on Facebook. Even down by you, I looked up on, West Palm Facebook Marketplace, and there was like 3 of them for sale, and they weren't that bad priced, So, I mean, let those guys do it, or you find one and do a nice resto on them.
Eventually, one of these days, I'm going to buy one, even if it's, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the club, at the Vintage Iron Club, that have already done restorations on these, and they're really nice. So
yeah, I've seen a few in Writing to History. They were really tastefully done, and they're going for good money too. I mean, I could restore that and probably get a good, but it's not about the money for me. It's just about getting that like creativity out of my system and just building something crazy. Like this other one here, this '85 Honda Sabre, this freaking ugliest bike. I mean, the V45 guys will hate me, but I mean, they're freaking ugly. I never liked the way it looked, and I had restored that. I gave it a nice nice British green paint job, and I tried to sell it. Nobody wanted the damn thing, so I'm like, the hell with it. So I started cutting it up. It's got a monoshock that it came originally with monoshock, but then I rebuilt the whole swing arm, and I redesigned the monoshock, and I kind of made the bike sit the way I want to. It's got a GL 1100 headlight on it. It's got a bison leather seat, fiberglass. It's got a cafe loop on it. It's got, so that thing can go anywhere, and it's a great bike. It's a great engine.
Yeah,
know?
I mean, those bikes, they in some forms that was a pretty good race bike. But what about the Magna you got going on?
So, all right. So I'm going to grab this because you need to look at this thing. This is a little bit of a crazy project. So, so this was around the time I had the 400. I went to the dealer, and this was like I bought this thing like new. It had like I think 3,500 miles on it. Yeah, it was around there. And I just drove it. It was red. And then I did some work to it. And then I was like, it still looks ugly. And I hated that like Honda Shadow tank. And it just had this weird fat bulbous look to it. And then these guys love these bikes the way they are. They put like tassels and windscreens on them. And they're like, holy shit, look at my cool Magna. And they always tend to put skulls and flames on these damn things. And I'm just like, God, guys, these fucking things are ugly. So I'm like, I was working on this Sabre. So this is the other Sabre here. I was working on this at the time. And I looked at that tank and I kind of mocked it up on top of this one. And I'm like, it doesn't fit because the airbox is so freaking big. But I'm like, how can I get that shape on this bike? So I bought another tank off eBay and I cut the whole inside out of it. And I cut the original Magna tank and I welded them together. And I built this tank. And then I painted it all like charcoal and it looked really cool. And then I painted it white. And I made these handlebars for it myself. Like everything's like hand built. And then these bikes don't go for a lot of money. They're really good bikes, great drivetrains. This is a VFR drivetrain in it, which is a little detuned, but it's still the same motor as those VFRs. And I'm like, what the hell can we do to this? And it's a fast bike.
I didn't know that. It's the same, shares the same motor with the VFR.
I think the internals might be different, but and the slides and some of the internals on the carbs are a little bit different, but that's a VFR.
Interesting.
It's a VF 750 and the VFR 800. And those were bikes that were competing with the Gixxers and stuff, back in the day. And so I'm like, well, nobody talks about this motor having that much potential. So I'm like, I started doing a bunch of research on VFRs, and they came out with like a VTEC VFR and a fuel injected one and stuff. So, I took these ugly ass fake fins off here, and I just like the way the motor looks without all that chrome on there. And plus, I'm knocking a bunch of weight off, so it's going to be stock it's going to look like this. This is going to get all cut off, custom, subframe will get built for it. I'll figure out this monoshock. I took off these giant like pegs. They're giant pegs with all the levers and stuff for the drum brake. Took all that stuff off. Took the whole exhaust off. I got 1.5 inch stainless coming. I'm gonna do a whole pie cut exhaust. Everything's gonna be tucked under here. These are gonna come down here, and I'm gonna build a muffler box for it or something. And exhaust might come out here. Yeah, so, and then it's got R6 rear wheel on it, which as soon as you put that wheel on it, it made the whole bike look awesome. Like it just evened it out. So, and then R6 front end to match.
Obviously, if you're listening to this on YouTube, you're not watching the video or listening to on iTunes, not watching the video on YouTube, you don't really see what Alvin's talking about. But if you go to his Instagram page, Black Giraffe Customs, all one word, he's got a little running thread that shows the original look of this bike when you got it, and my God, that thing was butt ugly.
Yeah, totally.
That is just, I mean, those goofy handlebars with those risers and that, like you said, that bulbous tank, and then I can see like where you went the charcoal version, and even the completed, the white one that you've got that you're working on now, the completed version of that looked badass. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it totally looked better. Yeah, it did, because I think that tank, and I cut the fender. I put it like a Harley taillight, fit perfect in there, and it was an LED taillight, and I like blacked out all the chrome and stuff, but it still just didn't have that look that I was looking for. That I want that big aggressive brakes. So like this R6 front end will be going on there.
Very nice.
This front end right here, it's not. I don't know. I got these parts on eBay, and I've just been trying to source good used parts at like fair prices, and it's really hard because the pieces are really good, and then you get the parts and they're all like freaking road rashed and messed up. But I want to put that Gixxer front end on this bike, but keep these stock wheels. So I got to figure out how to make some kind of adapter spacer, because these wheels are gorgeous.
Jesus, what is that rotor on there? That thing is huge.
I have no freaking clue.
It looks like a pizza pan.
Yeah, I know. And the But this is all the braking you have here. It's not even the whole thing. So it's really, there's a lot of heat could get generated in there and warp. But yeah, that's going to get, this was the giant oil cooler that was up there. It's, like I said, it's an 1123 with Mikunis, and it's got this crazy Calfab swing arm. These were the shocks that are on it. I don't think many people see these anymore.
We lost
These are
your
hard.
video there for a second.
No.
Oh, it's back. Never mind.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are our Fox shocks that were on there. These are like, they're pretty awesome. I was thinking about having these side by side in there as like a mono design, but still use like these vintage shocks.
That'd be
So,
cool. Yeah.
Just kind of keeping it era correct, but like with retro mods.
Yeah, I think the original shocks were air adjustable Showas.
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, they were. I have a set of them. I bought another donor bike I have in the shed that has it had no engine, but has all the original suspension in the rear swing arm. So that's the Saber. You see how I did the whole monoshock, and it's got some custom mufflers on there, and everything's LED. I'll show you guys this thing. I designed this taillight out of plexiglass, so it's like a one-off. So I don't know. You guys know Jesse Spade, right?
No, that
I
name.
No.
He's out of Atlanta. He's like a Ducati guy. So Jesse, you can look him up on Instagram, Jesse Spade. But Jesse Spade has these really awesome LED, like billet aluminum taillights. And so I illuminated them through this like plexiglass. So the taillights are all the way back here, but it like shines through there and looks like really dystopia, kind of like Tron thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, and this is, you guys know Grifter, right? You've heard of Grifter, like the gloves?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm friends with Asher. He owns it. He's here in Charleston. So he makes really awesome gloves. So I was like, Asher, I had this bike at his showroom, and it was for sale, and it was just on display. So this is the same leather, bison leather, he uses for his gloves. So had one of the local upholstery guys, like, we designed this seat. So this is all bison leather on a fiberglass seat pan that I made. So
That's awesome.
and GL 1100 headlight with all the LEDs in it. So
That's neat. You got like there's not really a theme here. Your style's kind of like varying, which I think is pretty neat. You know?
yeah, it's not. Yeah, none of these look like cafe racers either. You know?
Yeah,
yeah.
but we're like over that kind of narrow definition anyway. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
you take a bike and you start chopping stuff off of it. You know, you're making a cafe racer. If you want to go into the purest terminology of it, okay, then it's some British bike from this period. But nowadays, it can be anything. You know, you
Yeah,
take a dirt bike and put street tires on it and put fenders and a fairing, and you've got something different. I mean, that's the beauty about a lot of these guys that are building. They're building these things that are so far out, and they're pretty neat. And what I like seeing is stuff that's rideable. You know, that's where I had the problem with the big chopper era, you know, with Orange County and all these things.
Yeah.
You know, they were building rolling pieces of art that really weren't rideable and
Right.
getting like $70,000 for something. And then now that people can't give them away. But, you know, the stuff that guys like I like to call garage builders like you guys are, that you end up making also works of art, but stuff that's practical.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna probably lose you in a minute here. Let me just.
no problem. There's something else. I
got
wanted to
5
kind of
minutes on this.
switch gears here for a minute and talk about something. So I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys heard the news happened in May, or actually, no, it was maybe a few weeks ago, where I think it was in New Hampshire, where this guy driving a commercial vehicle
Yeah, kill the 7.
killed 7 people on motorcycles. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently now there some information, new information. I read an article on military.com. The guys that were in the group were all part of a Marine Corps based motorcycle club. And they were riding together, and like from ages mid 40s to early 60s. This guy, I guess, has had multiple suspensions on his license. He was a Ukrainian national that I guess INS was looking at him because he had previous cocaine and heroin convictions, and he was driving for a commercial vehicle company. That's what I don't get. Like, don't you think that would be something that would eliminate you from the job? Apparently not.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah, yeah, and they say witnesses say he was driving erratically, just really kind of sad. But I think as this story
Yeah.
seems to progress, we're going to find out that this guy had been through the system a bunch of times and no one ever did anything about it.
Yeah.
Really kind of fucked up.
Yeah, we went on a vintage motorcycle ride yesterday, and we had a moment of silence for them. But I mean, it's freaking horrific.
Good.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally horrific, man. All right, you guys, I'll be right back. You keep talking. I just gotta,
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm
do a
glad
little dog
that.
maintenance real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries.
So what else you got, Crash?
Well, in a couple days, I'm leaving to go to AMA Vintage Days, so I'm excited about that. Not excited to have to be at. My flight leaves at 6:15 in the morning on Tuesday, so I'm not looking forward to having to be at the airport at like 5:30 or 5 or whatever.
You're not an early guy, are you?
No.
No.
I've been getting up early all week, but like 5, 6-ish every day for stuff. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on air, but I'm actually going to yoga teacher certification class, and as a result, like I have to do a certain amount of hours of taking yoga classes, and it's just so much easier to get up and do like a 6 a.m. class and get it out of the way. And so I've been getting up early all week to go do that, but I'm not an early bird by any means.
I am, and it's not by choice. I just wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning, and then by like 3:34 in the afternoon, I can't keep my eyes open, and I'll rally a little bit, and I'm usually unconscious by evening. But if I like stay up, I'll all of a sudden get this second wind and be up till like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. It's just really weird.
Yeah, I get
What?
I have a hard time getting to sleep before midnight, even if I get up at 5 in the morning. It's kind of silly.
Yeah.
My motorcycles have not been getting ridden much lately because I've been so busy with other stuff. But the Bonneville really, I had honestly forgotten how much TLC the Bonneville needs because it just kind of sits in my backyard right now.
Mhm.
And then I went to move it and was like, oh wait, this thing, the gauge is messed up. I mean, I guess that's really the only like major thing. Like the gauge like broke one day, and it just I've I've had such crappy luck with speedometers on that bike. I've had like 3 of them now, and they've all like just kind of broken.
What's going on with that? He's just using crap or what?
I don't know. I mean, so the stock one, the needle just broke. Like I was
Mhm.
riding home, and the needle snapped as I was like riding on the freeway, and then I think I put another stock one on or something for a little while. Or I think I had an Acewell on there for a little bit too. And then I switched to this Koso gauge because I really liked the way it looked, and it had tachometer problems eventually, and now it doesn't. The button that like cycles through the display for like mileage and whatever, it doesn't work. So
Can't you get him to replace it for you?
it's out of warranty.
Yeah. Was that from
Yeah.
vibration, you think, or weather?
I don't know. The problem I think I might have had something to do with it because I had to take the face off to fix the tachometer needle a couple of times. Because it would get to where the 0 wasn't lining up with actually 0, so it would indicate the wrong RPMs. And so I'd have to like get in there and like turn it so that it would like scoot the little motor around in there. And then it just stopped. And then I like put it back together, and then things just weren't working anymore. It still shows my speed, which is cool, but right now the current maximum attainable speed of the Bonneville is like maybe 5 miles an hour before I hit a retaining wall. So, it's just locked in my garage, in my backyard at the moment.
You ever figure out a way to get it out of your backyard?
I'm still working on that. We have like the thing is we have this like deal that's coming down the pipe with a company that sells ramps, and they said they were willing to send me a ramp, but It's not moving at a particularly fast pace, and we're trying to get it figured out. So I'm intentionally kind of like not getting something else because I don't want to, like, why spend my money on something when someone's going to send me something. But I have a date that I have to have the bike out of the backyard by. So if it doesn't come before that, I'm just gonna have to make it work. I'm gonna buy some plywood or some, like, some like 2x12s and make a ramp.
I'm just thinking too, if you get a couple buddies to tie some, straps to the front forks and just kind of haul it up once you make the ramp, because you don't
Yeah.
really have. I don't think it's safe driving it up a ramp.
No.
Just because you don't have, like, once you get up there, you don't really have any runoff. You're into like gravel or whatever.
Yeah, I'm in like the mulch in my little
Right.
side beside my patio.
Right. You're gonna dump it. I mean, it'd be easy if they just kind of like haul it up. Hey, Crash,
Yeah.
can you unmute Alvin's mic for him? For some reason, it cannot be unmuted.
Alvin,
If you can.
he might have muted it because I don't
No,
have any.
I did because of all the background noise, and for some
Oh.
reason, I can't unmute it.
That's weird. I don't have. No, I cannot.
Alvin, on your up on your top of your screen, you're gonna see some like little icons. And like there's a one with a mic and a cross line through it. Like, check that, uncheck it. Should unmute your mic. That's really weird, man. I don't know why his mic. Oh, there it goes. You're good. You got it. You had it, and you let go. You stop. Yeah.
Hold on. How's that?
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
Yay.
Yeah.
Right.
We're good. Yeah,
Awesome.
just all the
Sorry, I got
background
an
noise.
8-month puppy.
It's okay, man. It's all right. We dig. We've had mutts here and there.
Yeah.
You know how they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a scrambler style motorcycle event in August that me and some friends are going to. So I need to get the Bonneville out of the backyard because it would be dumb to ride the KTM to that. It's just the wrong bike for that trip. So
Have you guys seen that new that Yamaha? Looks like a Ducati Scrambler.
Which one are you talking about? Because there's
the XSR 900.
I can't remember the name of it, but from a distance it looked just like a Ducati Scrambler, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like a V twin. But so I met this guy Joe yesterday at this ride, and he was like, "These things are like going for like $2,900, brand new. They can't get rid of them."
Oh, you got this. You must be talking about maybe. Is it a what? How many cc's? Because I'm thinking it's an SR 400.
I think it was a 900.
If it's a V twin, it's the SCR 950, which is like the Yamaha Bolt. Yeah, it's like the Yamaha Bolt motor and some of the frame-ish, and then like they took like the Yamaha Bolt Cruiser and turned it into a scrambler-ish thing.
I mean, it doesn't look that bad for the price. I mean, that's the same price as a used bike. I mean, you can do a lot with it.
I mean, if they're I'll tell you right now, if they're selling them for that price, I'll go buy one because it's not a bad bike, and there's a bunch of guys out there that have done a bunch of customization on them. The first year the Bolt came out at AIM, they had a like they had Hagman motorcycles and Rook and a bunch of other people did a bunch of customs on these things, and they looked really cool. I actually test rode the bike. It's not that bad, honestly.
No.
I'm just wondering why they're tanking on price like that, because they were Crash. These things were like $8,000, weren't they? If not more.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd get one. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that thing. I mean, for that $3,000, or maybe probably 3,500 out the door with taxes and everything. But I mean, you got a great platform on a brand new drivetrain. Do the exhaust, do some custom stuff. It had a nice seat on it already. And, I don't like the front wheel being that like dirt. I kind of like more 18s on front and back. That's just my style.
Right. The only thing I can think of is this is leftover stock because it was a 2017 model year. So.
Yeah.
Nothing
wrong with getting a brand new leftover bike.
Yeah.
No. And especially for that price, because you can't really. You're not going to be able to get. I'm looking right now to see what they're kind of trending for. eBay, there's one for like $6,000. Let's see. Yeah, so retail on these things looks like they were around $8,600, $8,700 on Cycle Trader. 2017 looks brand new, 6,000. Yeah, they're trending right around $6,000. I didn't think it was. I mean, because at that price, well, maybe used. These look all new. Was he talk? Did he buy the thing used or new? Do you know?
He bought it brand new, and he bought it in North Carolina, and then he says somewhere in, I think Michigan.
Wow, that's a
There's a dealer
steal,
up in
man.
Michigan or Wisconsin. I can't remember, but
Hmm.
they're like dealers are getting rid of them. Like they just can't sell them, and they're just like letting them go for like dirt cheap. Probably like what the tissue costs on them, you know. But
Yeah, that's a steal. It really is.
I,
I mean,
I mean, I see CB 750s that are basket cases that are going for 3,500. You know,
yeah,
70s
yeah. Here's
bikes.
one. Here's one for 4,900. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, here's one for 3,900. Holy cow! And this one is
Can we go lower? Do we have
this
2,900?
one's brand new.
Let's go 29.
Hey, Crash, this one's in Redondo Beach.
Oh, that's
Brand
not
new,
far.
3,900 bucks.
I don't
There you
have
go.
3,900 bucks, but if somebody wants me to like go get it for them,
That's a steal, man. I mean,
it is.
seriously, that is an absolute steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the prices are
I
all
mean,
over the
are they
place.
good bikes? Are they like? Have they even tested? Like anybody? Like
It's a Yamaha, man. It's like buying a Honda. You know, I mean, I don't.
yeah,
And,
Yeah.
and the thing about it is, Yamaha made a ton of aftermarket parts for these things. They had a pretty cool, concept with these where you could go into the dealership like Harley Davidson, pick out the bike and then get all the aftermarket parts. The only difference is a lot of their aftermarket parts weren't in stock. Like Harley usually has a lot of stuff in stock where you can get your bike and they'll put it all together and then roll everything into the cost of financing. Yamaha did the same thing. It's just they had to order some of the stuff. The dealers didn't usually have it. But
Yeah, I think Harley kind of makes their dealers stock a lot of that stuff.
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
it's
So it's just like ready to roll right there on. Yo, come back tomorrow. We'll have your bike ready.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not as painful when you're rolling it all into a loan. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so the person's like, okay, I'm getting all this cool stuff, and I'm paying like $80 more a month. And I spent an additional $4,000, and
Yeah, and you got to hang out with like two guys with sweet nicknames like, lard ass and freaking puff pastry. Like,
What's up there, Cocoa Puffs?
That's
yeah.
nice, man.
I don't I can't remember. Do the dealers in you guys areas do that? Like the ones here in San Diego, they all have like nicknames. Like I went in there one time to try to demo ride a bike, and one guy was like, "Yeah, I'm Fat Cat," and I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "No, not really, but they make me say it."
Really?
Yeah, yeah. All their
Oh
name
man,
tags had like some, friggin' douche canoe and Fat Cat and
we only have one
whatever.
dealer here in
Just kidding.
Charleston that's worth going to see. It's Champion Honda, and they have Ducati and BMW, and all. I don't go to the Harley dealer place. I mean, I'm not. I just look at the sticker prices, and I'm like, oh my god. Geez, I'll put that towards my mortgage and be like halfway done.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's true.
You
And
know?
like we were talking about the live wire, and it came out at $30,000, which is just
Yeah,
complete
yeah,
stupidity. But Harley's been around for over 100 years, so they obviously are doing something right. We all know they sell a lifestyle, not necessarily a motorcycle.
right.
But and I wish some other manufacturers applied the fit and finish to the motorcycles like Harley does. It's just not my style of bike. Now the sport
Yeah,
bike they've got coming out and the adventure bike, I definitely want to test ride those. But if they're going to be, if that sport bike comes out at like $27,000, which I'm thinking it's gonna, you can forget it. It's going to be like again premium Ducati prices and stuff like that. But
right.
maybe
Yeah, you
that's
can go out there and spend the same money with someone that's already done it a million times.
well, and also listen. You can't deny the fact that Harley Davidson has had a rich history of racing. It's not like they haven't done that. They have,
Right.
and they've been really successful in it in their own genre. But now to compete in the sport bike market against people like BMW and Ducati and even the Japanese brands, Gixxers are iconic when it comes to racing.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm interested to ride the bike. I want to feel what it rides. I was a big fan of Buell. I think personally Harley Davidson destroyed that marquee, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, every time if you guys go on Bot Power, they're on Instagram, BOTT Power.
hmm
And you look at some of the Buells they do and they race them. I mean, the stance is awesome. it's kind of inspired me to do the Magna with this. I know I'm not going to get that same stance as that Buell, but I kind of want that still sports look. But their bikes are gorgeous, man. They're just
Yeah.
I don't know why they ever stopped making them. Everyone that has that bike loves it, and they sound amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No, they're
I
cool. I
can't believe
think,
it's the same V twin.
yeah, well, there was a lot of innovation that went into the frame and swing arm, and even and when EBR, Eric Buell Racing, came out with their own design motor and everything, a complete departure. I test rode one of those bikes and loved it, and I was really seriously considered buying one. But then I'm thinking, probably not a smart idea. No dealer support, no, probably parts would become scarce after a while.
Yeah,
No, the stuff Dave Sanchez does at Bob Power is really cool. I've seen those bikes; are really neat. One of these days, I don't know. Maybe if I find a cheap one, I'll end up buying a Buell just to have it. But right now, I got to ride the bikes I have, and I haven't had a chance to ride in a while. So
Yeah, same
yeah.
here.
yeah, makes me sad. And then they did a ride the last weekend. I couldn't go because I was starting to. That's the day we were prepping for the move, and man, it was 93 degrees out, and I was just not motivated to go out and ride. But
Yeah, it's hard to get out in this weather. It's just you got to get moving. Once you get on the road, you're just like, okay, I'm already sweating, and the sweat's helping when the wind hits it. So it's like it's comfortable. But we went out yesterday, and my buddy was like, "Here, I want you to take this out, put some miles on it." He gave me his 2017 CB 1100, and it had 151 miles on it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had it for a year. He was like, "Can you take this out? Like, take it on the ride?" So I'm like, "Yeah, man." So I put it through its paces. I wasn't too
what'd
hard
you
on
think
it.
of that bike? Because I think it's kind of like portly. Is it heavy?
It's really heavy, like super heavy. When you're on it, it doesn't feel bad, but like it feels heavier than all the bikes I have here. It's weird. But it rode okay. Um, it needs some upgrades. It needs to be like opened up. And this thing, and then granted, I wasn't really getting on it because it had under 200 miles on it, and I didn't want to beat it up before its first oil change, but handled okay. But I would still like to see like an R edition of that bike.
Right.
And I probably would do that if I could find a 14 or 15 CB 1100. I would probably do, and I would like to strictly keep all of the Honda parts on it, like do a that CB 1100R, the one, like do a front suspension off of that, maybe a monoshock off of that, and kind of keep it all Honda, and just build like almost like the Thruxton R version,
Mm-hmm.
on the CB11. I think it would be a really beautiful bike if they did that, but I know the price point would be ridiculous. That's why you'd have to do it yourself. Find a $5,000 CB1100 with 2,000 miles on it, and then just
When they announced that bike, I honestly thought it was going to be a remake of the 1100F, and it was more just a remake of like a CB 900F. Like
yeah.
more of a standard. I was really disappointed when it came out because I was like really hoping for them to, or even have a kit, to make it more like the 1100F. But
I've seen the renditions. They took that, like I have the fairing, like that square light fairing.
yeah,
I saw one on a CB 1100, and the guy had the same paint scheme like I have on that one, and it looked freaking beautiful. I think they should have just came out with the box with that. Like when really nice suspension and everything. Like you look how good the monkeys are doing. Everybody wants one so bad,
Mm-hmm.
And the bike looks amazing. The chrome is good, and paint is good, and it looks nice, and everybody wants one. But like the way you looked at that CB 1100 and you had one, it's like I think that's the way people would have looked at that one if it came out.
right.
If they had you can do it yourself. I mean, but I think I like the VIN number to be like full CB 1100 Super Sport, like you know what I mean. So as a collector,
I want the Honda Monkey. I want like take a Honda Monkey and make it like double the size or triple the size. That's the bike I want.
You want like the Honda
Yeah.
Gorilla?
Yeah, I want the Honda King Kong is what I want.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool bike.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, monkeys are neat, man. It was funny because I got some pictures I'm going to post on the Instagram page. I was out the other night. We were having dinner. It was like really late at night, and we were down by Fort Lauderdale Beach, and there were a couple of Ruckuses parked in front of the restaurant that were like all done up with these big gauge clusters and crazy stuff all over them. I thought they were pretty neat. These guys were just grabbing these things and customizing the crap out of them for very little money. Yashimiro's already got exhaust out for the monkey and stuff. It's pretty crazy. It's going to go the route of the Grom,
I saw the Grom at the first year. I had a Grom 2 years ago at Barber. I was riding around on a Grom, and there was another guy who had a Grom, and it looked like it was Ducati red with like USD forks on it, and I was like, oh my god, how much carbon fiber everywhere? I'm like, would you spend $8,000 on this freaking thing? It's like, it's a pit bike,
Yeah, no,
it looked awesome.
Yeah, no, I met a guy that got one. He's got a motor that puts out 90 horsepower. It's crazy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, on a Grom. It's sick. He took the fuel injection system out, put a carburetor on it, did all kinds of work to it. It's got all these performance parts hanging off of it. It's really cool. The thing flies.
I wonder what's the top speed you think?
I have no idea. I wouldn't want to ride it at the top speed because it's not very stable.
Not on a bridge.
Yeah.
No, those little wheels, just shaking to death.
No way.
Screw that. Yeah, no. I mean, look, the little bikes. I'm glad they're making a big hit, and I'm glad people are buying them because that's is going to just bring more people into motorcycling. Somebody who doesn't need the big bike, they're in a small area, they just want something to commute. That's why I like the Ruckus so much. It's like having a golf cart for one person, really.
Yep.
It's pretty neat. Yeah. Unfortunately,
I want to do like you just see somebody did a sidecar on one of those.
On the Ruckus, I've seen a couple of them actually. They're pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some flat ones that are more like utility carts, where they can haul crap around. Yeah.
So when you go to Barber, you can go to like the swap meet and you can like lug shit back. Cause I had stuff bungee cord to my back, like trying to get back to the car on this Grom. I bought a rim in it with the tire still on it for that KZ. And it was kind of a pain in the ass to travel with it. But yeah, I would do that exactly for that, just for like those swap meets. Pick them up.
Yeah, I'm going to AMA Vintage Days this 4th of July weekend, and the thing that's going to keep me from making any ridiculous purchases is I'm flying in and flying out. So that I don't have anywhere to put anything. But
well, you can go to the UPS store, just send it away.
You're right.
Yeah,
like, hey, will you ship my home motorcycle?
Yeah. If the guy was trustworthy, if you knew somebody, you could just like, if you had a friend there, you could be like, here's my Venmo and just ship all this stuff.
I do know somebody. I have a lot of access to a Cleveland area dealership, so that could be dangerous.
Yeah. Just to be like, just buy a crash, put it in the van.
Yeah.
Barter with beer, Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's actually, if you Google like Ruckus sidecar, there's some really innovative stuff that's come out. There's one guy that's got one that's got, like I said, like that kind of flat, like tube welded. This is like an ADV thing, man. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
But it's on ADV Rider, and he's got like one of those aero boxes, like a Thule or a Yakima for the top of a car, like mounted to the sidecar for like luggage and stuff. It's pretty cool.
That would be a good way to like make that into a sidecar. You could just like make a hole in it, shove somebody in there, and, like, just pop their head out. You put the on.
Really cheap sidecar. Just give me that saw. I'm cutting a hole in this thing. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, perfect.
Oh, I would totally do it. I would do it. Yeah. Just repurpose shit. Sidecars are super expensive, man. Like, just find something that has that general shape.
Like a garbage can.
Like koi fish ponds. Or koi fish pond, like just weird shape.
Weld 2 garbage cans together, cut a hole in the top, and you got a sidecar. Perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if you took one of those, like the modern bins that they come and like pick up and dump into the thing, they've got wheels on them already. So there's you just tilt it back a little bit.
You want to use the plastic wheels? Oh my god.
Yeah, why not?
What are you going to the funeral this week? Yeah, I killed my friend last week on his fucking garbage can, broke off the bike and put him into a tree.
Perfect.
You could change them out for some, skateboard wheels or some like big like rollerblade wheels or something.
It would
Yeah.
be cool to have like one of those grounds with do sidecar racing with those.
Yeah.
Like build a Grom sidecar racer.
Oh, I think that's coming. I think that you're going to
You think
see,
so?
yeah, some kind of Grom sidecar race. Here's another guy that's got a trailer that he made on the back of a ruckus with like a gas can and fishing pole holders and stuff. It's you guys with your welders, man. You give a guy a welder, next thing you know, he's building something
Oh.
that's never been built before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea of a big ass adventure bike or just a big like Goldwing or something with a sidecar that has a Grom on it.
Where's that thing?
Well, I know there was a guy that, well, he's still around. He's pretty much a legend down here in South Florida. This guy, Metal Flake, Herb's his name, and he always wins like the slow bike contests at every rally and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got a Goldwing with a sidecar like ramp, and he carts around an old Triumph Tiger, like a 1960s era Triumph Tiger on it.
Wow.
Yeah, and when he goes to these rallies, he brings this thing and then offloads this Tiger to do like the slow races and stuff.
Yeah.
Or show it in the thing, but it's kind of neat. I've seen a couple of those actually where they're bringing like a small race bike or something like that on a bigger bike with a utility car on the side,
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. I wonder if you could like make like a sidecar attachment where it has no wheels, but it uses the wheels of the motorcycle that you're bringing. You know what I mean? And then so it's like 4 wheels. 2 of them are your show bike. So you kind of put it into this U-shaped receiver. It locks the bike down, and now you have a 4-wheel vehicle. But you're not riding that one. And then when you get it to where maybe you could do your race bike or something, and that's how you can trailer it there.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's already tried that.
It would use up the tires though, which would kind of suck.
It would what?
It would you'd use up the tires on the show bike or the race bike or whatever.
Well, I think you'd have to keep the front tire off the ground though, right?
Yeah, I think so, because it's gonna. Yeah.
I'm actually trying
It'd
to.
probably be really weird if you had to turn really quick. One way you would like flip the bike over, the other way you can't even turn.
Yeah. Right.
So it'd probably be dangerous. Maybe that's why nobody's really done it.
Perhaps.
I don't think that's usually a factor in a lot of these things. I don't think danger comes into play for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Dangerous? Nah, don't worry about it, man. Just go ahead and do it. No, not a big deal.
It's all right. We're only traveling 90 miles. It's all right. It's all right. The CB1100 didn't do well on the bridges, and it wasn't even that windy.
Why?
But it just felt like it was like really shaky on the bridge. And then we have these. I was on I-26, and we have these little grooves in the road. I don't know why I guess they're for like channeling rain or something.
Yeah, I think so.
But they're freaking horrible, especially if you got Avon Speedmasters on there, because they match. Like the grooves in the tire match perfectly with the grooves in the road, and it puts you in a track. So you'll be like perfectly fine going around a turn, and all of a sudden the bike starts wiggling, and it's like you're a record player on this damn thing. It's freaking terrifying. Anytime I'm on my old 750, I'm like, I'm not taking the I-26. We have to take the back roads.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I just found by far the dumbest idea when it comes to a Goldwing and putting stuff on it.
Okay.
So
it should be our show picture for the show then.
This is definitely going to be it. This is a article that came out in Autoblog back in 2010. The company, for good reason, is no longer in business. But there was a Swedish company called Coming Through that made this module that goes on like the back end of a Honda Goldwing, that this transformer like device pops out the back, and it's a tow platform where you could tow a 5,000-pound car. This is by far the dumbest thing I've ever seen, and I am going to send this picture to you, Crash, like right now. Hold on a second. Wait till you see this. I cannot believe that somebody actually made this, and even has like a flashing strobe light on the top of it. It looks like a giant throne on the back of a Goldwing.
Yeah, I found it.
Is this not the dumbest thing in the world?
Actual. Why?
I've never seen anything in my life like this. Like, there's a couple of pictures The Retriever Goldwing tow truck. Why? Why? I don't, exactly. Like, I don't
Goldwing
understand.
tow truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goldwing. I'll send you the link, Alvin. Hold on a second.
Yes.
This is
Email it to
really.
me.
Oh, I'm gonna text it to you right now. This is
You know, I mean, they've taken off the entire rear section of the Goldwing and put on something else, and they probably didn't add that much weight.
the beautiful thing about it is it's still a single tire in the rear.
I know. I
It's
mean, they
not
definitely added a
limited
lot of weight, but
Yeah, that thing's got to be heavy.
yeah.
Look at it. It comes out and tows a car, for
Oh my
God's
God.
sakes. Yeah, no wonder the company's not in business anymore.
Who thought that was a good idea?
Some Swede, obviously. Well, to stand by, we'll be sending out one of our motorcycles. Wait a second, didn't you hear me? I've got a car that broke down. Yeah. We're gonna send out a
Okay.
motorcycle.
We'll be fine.
It'll be fine. No
And, like,
problem.
it's like a whole deployable thing. Like, it's not just like a trailer hitch. It's
No.
like a fold out
Yeah,
dolly that goes
Yeah.
under the front wheels.
with two wheels and everything.
It's got 3 wheels. It has a wheel at like where the tongue would be. I guess to take the weight off the rear tire of the Goldwing, so you don't have the weight of the car pushing down on the tires of
And
the bike of the bike.
did you see the crazy kickstand on the rear too?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
boy, kind of want one.
Oh boy, I knew that was coming.
I mean, I don't
Holy
want to
shit.
actually tow a car with it.
What do you want to do with it?
I mean, it looks like it was well built too.
They thought
Like
a
the piece
lot
that
about
folds
this.
down. Oh.
There's a
Even
lot
the
of
way they mold
engineering.
yeah, that's freaking scary.
Someone
I'd like
had
to
a
see the
dream.
outtakes. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a video of it.
I don't know, but that's pretty ridiculous. I tried to find the company. They're out of business. It doesn't look like they're coming up anymore unless somebody else
Aw.
bought it. Yeah. If they were in business, I'd have them on the show. Like, what are you guys thinking?
Seriously.
Right?
We should try to
Well-
contact them and tell them why they're not in business anymore. Ask.
Right. On that wonderful revelation, I think we should probably wrap things up.
I think you're right.
Holy shit. That thing is so weird. I found some YouTube videos too. I'm going to try to like find
Yeah.
one that
Pick
demonstrates it properly, and then I'll throw that in our show notes as well.
the best picture, man. That thing is ridiculous. And
Yeah.
we can name the show whatever you want.
All right. So
Goldwing tow truck.
So our wonderful new special guest can be found on the internet on Instagram at why can't I find it now? Will you tell us your Instagram? I was going to do it for you, but I
Black-
can't fucking find it.
Black Giraffe Customs.
There you go. Black Giraffe Customs.
His contact
also on the
info is on
Facebook?
there. Yeah, he's on the Facebook, but Alvin says he doesn't really use it. So go to Instagram and DM him or call him. He's got his phone number on there.
Yep.
He makes some really cool stuff. And we're everywhere on the internet. If you like the show, give us a rating on iTunes. That really helps us out. And you got any questions, you can send us a email at feedback at caferacerpodcast.com. You can reach Crash at caferacerpodcast.com and me at Steve at caferacerpodcast.com.
Yep. And then thanks for everybody that supports us on Patreon. As usual, you can find patreon.com/Cafe Racer Podcast if you'd like to support the show. And our Pelican gift pack giveaway. I've gotten some really cool responses, and I intentionally have not shared them with Steve because I kind of want to read him some of them on air. But
Okay.
you have a little over a week left to get your entries in for that. If you'd like to enter to win the Pelican R40 ruck case and then the hot and cold thermos bottle thing. I know thermos is a trademark. Sue me. But yeah, so we're going to give away 2 of those, one to the best real answer and one to the best ridiculous answer. So yeah, caferacerpodcast.com/contest is where you'll find all the details. And all you have to do is enter and you'll get an email that says, send us your idea. And there's no place on the website to put in your idea. So just enter the contest and then you'll get an email that asks for your fun use case for this ruck case from Pelican. think that's it. Get out
That's
and
all I
ride.
got. See ya.
All right.